All the time.
And all the time.
God is good.
Ni kama mkufanya assignment. Mlisahau. Shughuli imekuwa mingi. Okay, but still, at least we make time to read the Bible. At least once a day. Before you sleep, at least unaweza soma. Even if it's one line, one verse, I mean. So today we are reading Genesis chapter 35. Before I read, today I'm grateful to God for the gift of life, for the gift of good health. Last Sunday I was not feeling so well, but today I'm healed. I thank Him for healing. And even those who are unwell, kuna outbreak ya kahoma, wote wenye hawajisikii vizuri mtapona.
Amen.
So today we are reading Genesis chapter 35. Jacob returns to Bethel. So let's believe and pray. Mighty and everlasting Father, Lord, we thank you for your word this morning. We thank you, Jehovah, Lord, for this chapter that we're going to read. We pray to our glory that as we read it, we shall understand, we shall be able to get what you want us to get out of it. We give you praise, we worship you, for it is in your mighty name I do pray, believe and trust you. Amen. So, you remember last week we read a chapter that was full of sorrow. When you are high school, mukisoma set books, tunasoma theme of this, right? So last week we read chapter 34, which was a sad chapter. You remember the daughter of Jacob was defiled. I hope we remember that. So today we are reading 35, and now Jacob is returning to Bethel, where initially the Lord had told him to go after he left Padan Aram, where he was with Laban. So I shall read chapter 35, verse 1. Then God said to Jacob, "Go up to Bethel and settle there, and build an altar there for God, who appeared to you when you were fleeing from your brother Esau." So Jacob said to his household and to all who were with him, "Get rid of the foreign gods you have with you, and purify yourselves, and change your clothes." You remember when Jacob and the wives were leaving the house of Laban, Rachel stole some goats from the house of his father. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Even when his father was chasing them, akaficha. She sat on them and said she was on her periods. I think that is in chapter 31. So we are seeing God speaking to Jacob here, and he's telling him to Jacob is telling his household to get rid of foreign gods and purify themselves. So let's read on, verse 3. "Then come, let us go up to Bethel, where I will build an altar to God, who answered me in the day of my distress, and who has been with me wherever I have gone." So they gave Jacob all the foreign gods they had, and the rings in their ears, and Jacob buried them under the oak at Shechem. Then they set out, and the terror of God fell on the towns all around them, so that no one pursued them. When we were reading through last week's chapter 34, you remember after Dinah was defiled, the brothers of Dinah plotted to kill the men from, what was his name? Shechem and his father Hamor. The two brothers of Dinah plotted to kill them, and they killed the men. So Jacob was in fear. What if these men come up against us and fight us? We are few in number. They might kill us all. But we are seeing God was with them. And he set out, when they set out, the terror of God fell on the towns all around them, so that no one pursued them. So still, after even they have fallen short of the glory of God, because we've seen them kill people, that is against what God wanted them to do. So even still in disobedience, we still see God protecting them. So verse 6, "Jacob and all the people with him came to Luz, that is Bethel, in the land of Canaan. There he built an altar, and he called the place El Bethel, because it was there that God revealed himself to him when he was fleeing from his brother." So you remember Jacob, when he was going to Padan Aram, to the family of Laban, he was fleeing from Esau, yes? And you remember there is a place he slept on that day that he was going to Padan, alichokea katikati ya safari, and there is a place he slept, and we are told that he slept under a stone. it was so discomfortable. You remember the next morning, that was his point of praise after God had appeared to him through a dream. And he anointed that place and called it Bethel. So still here, we are seeing he's creating another altar. He's building another altar, and he called that place El Bethel, because God had revealed himself to him. So verse 8, now Deborah, Rebekah's nurse, died and was buried under the oak outside Bethel, so it was named Al-Bakuth. According to my Bible, Alon Bakuth means oak of weeping. Yes, so verse 9, after Jacob returned from Padan Aram, God appeared to him and blessed him. God said to him, your name is Jacob, but you will no longer be called Jacob. Your name will be Israel. So he named him Israel. And God said to him, I am God Almighty. Be fruitful and increase in number. A nation and a community of nations will come from you, and kings will be among your descendants. The land I gave to Abraham and Isaac, I also give to you, and I will give this land to your descendants after you. Then God went up from him at the place where he had talked with him. Jacob set up a stone pillar at the place where God had talked with him, and he poured out a drink offering on it. He also poured oil on it. Jacob called the place where God had talked with him Bethel. So this is the second time he's calling that place Bethel, and this is the second time he's anointing this place. So a summary of what we've read from verse 1 through 14. Verse 1, we've seen God instructing Jacob to return to Bethel. I think this is after Jacob has faced a lot of things. Last week we saw what happened to him and his family, how his daughter was defiled. So it's like God is calling him back to himself. Nirudie, come back to me. Because you remember when he was leaving Padan, God told him to go to Bethel. Now he did not go to Bethel. He stayed in the vicinity of Canaan. So I think this is God trying to still tell him to be obedient and go back to Bethel, where he was fleeing from Esau. At the time he was going to Padan. Verse 2, Jacob instructed his household to get rid of foreign gods. You remember I've told you about Rachel when she stole the gods from her father's household. Jacob has also instructed them to purify themselves and change their clothes. Yes, so that is Genesis chapter 31. We find the reference of the gods that Rachel stole from his father's household. So I think Jacob was also tired of what was happening, and he was ready to change his ways. He had undergone a lot of things, a lot of circumstances since the time he left his father's household. We've seen him not being fully obedient. We've seen him deceiving others. So I think this was a call from God. And this reminded me that despite whatever we do, despite our weaknesses, God still is open to receive us. Hakuna wakati Mungu atachoka aseme ati, wewe ulitenda dhambi sana. Time was up for you. Every new day is a day of God telling us to come back to Him, to change our ways, to be pure before Him, to obey His word and come back to Him. His door is always open. Yes? So verse 3, then come to Bethel. Jacob wanted his journey to be different. Jacob realized that God stayed with him wherever he went, through the good and the bad. So in time of good, in time of bad, in time when he was disobedient, in time where he deceived others, God was still with him. We've seen God blessing him even in the midst of different circumstances. Yes?
Yes.
So how great or how good is our God? That even if we fall short of His glory, His love is still with us. He's not like a man. Ukikosea mwanadamu mwenzako, He carries it in their hearts.
Yes.
But God is so good, He's so just. Even in our shortfalls or downfalls, He still loves us. Yes? So verse 4. Then